Hey everybody, it's Theresa here of Larkin Design, and welcome to my series of Photoshop tutorials. Today I want to do a printing tutorial, and so I've had some requests talking about and asking me how to print on A4 size paper. And so if you live in the US, then you most likely print on 8.5 by 11 paper. And if you live in Europe or Australia or other countries, you probably print on A4 size. And so I wanted to talk with you about the differences and show you the differences and also help you learn a new way of printing your digital elements, printing digital journaling cards and any kind of digital product using your print to scale or print to 100% function in your printer menu. So I'm in Photoshop today and I am using Photoshop CC. That's the Creative Cloud version that's subscription based. I pay a small fee every month and have access to Photoshop and get updates to Photoshop regularly. There's also PSE, which is Photoshop Elements, that you can purchase outright, and then you have one specific version of Photoshop. Most of the things that I'm showing you today should be applicable in PSE. They may look a little bit different or be in a slightly different place. I also am using a Canon Pixma printer, and your printer will probably have similar tools. It may be worded a little bit differently. I encourage you, if you have any questions at all or if you get stuck, you're welcome to email me at larkindesign@hotmail.com. You can also message me, of course, through YouTube. You can message me on my website and on Instagram. Feel free to private message me anytime that something doesn't make sense or that you get stuck. And so one of the things that I like to do to check how my printer is printing in size comparison, so to make sure that my printer is printing a true 4x6 image, is I like to pull up a 4x6 card. This is one from the Ordinary Moments collection that I designed. And so this is a 4x6 card that has color from edge to edge. If you print a white journaling card, then you're gonna not necessarily see where it's missing. And so when I go into my print menu here, I have several options for printing. And so the last time I printed, it was on a 4x6 canvas. It shows a little tiny bit that's getting cut off here. Sometimes I just leave that be and don't worry with it. But I wanted to show you a few things. First off, in my printer setup, I have two options for my Canon printer. And so experiment. If you see several different settings or several different options, I typically just use the IX6800 series, and that seems to give me a pretty good result. The next box that's important is print settings. And your print settings, when I click on that, that brings up the Canon printer menu. Yours might be an Epson or yours might be the HP. Even though some things might look slightly different for you, this is what I have found works with Canon. And so you probably have similar buttons and functions even if you don't have a Canon. You'll see commonly used settings, and so that's what type of printing. If I'm doing a draft print where it's not something I'm going to put in my albums and it's not something that I really need to be color fast, use standard printing because it uses less ink. For digital elements and journaling cards and photos, I always use photo printing, and usually I'm using borderless printing as well. I don't do the Canon border printing at all. Media type, I typically just put it on glossy photo paper. Even if I'm using matte photo paper, I still put it on glossy photo paper. And then you have options for your printer paper size. So in this case, of course, it's 4x6, and I want it on landscape orientation. And then I also want to go into the main screen here and click preview before printing. I always want to take one last look at it before it goes through. And then here in page settings is a little setting that kind of goes unnoticed but can make a big difference. And it's this amount of extension slider here. Canon says, and the little pop-up says, the second right end is recommended. The extension amount is least on the left. When I print on the recommended setting, it does not go all the way to the edge. It will not print all the way to the edge. So I usually slide it one over. You can experiment with this, check your printer to see if you have something that functions similar to this. I just know what this looks like in the Canon print menu. And so I'm going to click OK. Those are the things that I'm most interested in maintaining. I'm going to let it register that for a moment, and then it will slide down. And there are several options that I have here in the Photoshop print menu. Look, it just changed all of that. It did not save any of those settings. So go back in here. I'm not sure why it just did that. But go back in here and make sure that all of those settings are where we want them to be. And then it should look on the screen the way we want it to look. Maybe. Make sure that it's in horizontal orientation. Okay. And so now we have several options here in the Photoshop printer menu. And of course, position and size, you can center it. We want this centered because we're going edge to edge. And we want it at 100% scale because we want it to print the whole thing. And so at this point, I'm going to hit the print button, and it should print out a decent print of my journaling card. If any of those things are off or need to be tweaked, you'll know. Sometimes it will show on the preview. Yeah, it's not. There's something about how it's not registering the horizontal orientation. This is why I always tell it to preview, to print preview for me, so that I can tell if it's registering these. And one of the things that's going on is that I'm screen capturing, and so it's fighting with the screen capture to save these settings. Just so you can see what effect that slider has, I'm going to show you what it looks like on the print preview when that slider is not in the right place. So remember, we talked about this amount of extension. I'm going to put it on the far right hand and let you see in the print preview what that does. Hopefully it'll show me. And the benefit of, I typically keep 4x6 cards on my desk so that I can just print individual journaling cards out. And if it prints wrong on one side, I can just turn it over and reprint it on the back side. And so you can see here where it runs the writing off of the edge of the canvas here. So that tells it to zoom in on the image just a little bit too much. Let me show you what it does going in the other direction. So go back in here. And this is basically to test if your printer for some reason is zooming in more on these images. I don't really know what the official word is to call this, but Canon calls it extension. But it can mess up even a PDF printing. It can mess you up if this isn't set right. And so what you'll see here, that actually does a pretty good job and looks pretty accurate to what's on the screen. Sometimes I'll print this out and it'll have a white edge here if it's too far to the left. I think that looks pretty good. I'll probably print that out and then share it with you in real life, so you can see what that looks like once it's actually printing. But for today, I want to focus on, that is just one way to make sure to check your printer and make sure that it's printing true to size. That's an easy way. What I want to do is open one of these PDFs. The PDFs that come with the Larkin Design collections are available in JPEG format, PDF format, and PNG. And so I'm going to open up the JPEG just because we're strictly printing here. And these are really designed to just print and cut and use very simply. And so of course it's on 8.5 by 11 size. And I want to show you what the difference is between 8.5 by 11 and A4. So I'm going to open up a new canvas. I don't want to mess up what's here, but I'm going to open up the A4 canvas. And A4 is 210 by 297 millimeters. And you'll see what the difference is here in just a minute. So once I have that opened up, I'm going to go and grab this layer and I'm going to drag it into the document that I just opened, and I'm going to drop it there. And what you'll see happens is that the A4 is a tiny bit narrower than 8.5 by 11 and a tiny bit longer. This is good news if you're using a printable that has a border, and I have a border incorporated on the PDFs from Larkin Design specifically so that you can still print this on A4 and you're still going to get the sizing correct. And so then all you have to do at that point is go into your print menu. I don't have A4 paper here, but I do have the print setting, and so I can show you what it will look like in the print preview, I think. Yep, there's A4, and I want this in portrait, orientation, preview before, and we determined that that amount of extension is okay. I still feel better printing it on that setting, and then hopefully this will adjust. Yep, and so we can see how the margin is a little bit tighter on the sides and a little bit more extended on the top and bottom. Now, a caveat here with the journaling cards, you do want them to print at 3x4. With the digital elements, it's not as critical if they're the exact size that they're shown on the JPEGs. But this should allow you to print to the appropriate scale. Now I'm going to hit cancel on that for now. And again, I'll print that out in real life and let you see what that looks like. I did also want to go into this PDF and pull up, all right, every Larkin Design digital collection comes with a full printable package, which is the full PDF set. And so I'm going to open that, and it just opens in your web browser. So when you open that up, it automatically selects a web browser for you. Mine is using Edge, and these pages come up automatically. And so the purpose of this is so that you can literally feed 9 or 10 sheets of paper into your printer and hit print, and it will print this for you, and it should be automatically sized for you. That is the design of the Larkin Design Collections, because I want printing and using digital elements to be really easy for you. So I'm just going to share that with you, how to print in your web browser. So it takes a minute for them all to come up, right? Because it's like, I think they're 9 pages, 9 or 10 pages here. So it takes a minute for it to read them all. But this is how you can print, and if you don't even have Photoshop, right? You can literally just purchase the Larkin Design Collection, open up the full PDF, and print it. And then cut it all out and go. So it is designed to be really, really easy here. Of course, you can also open these up in your Silhouette and add your registration marks and print it through your Silhouette, and then have your Silhouette cut these as well. So just still waiting here. There we go. All right, so they are all pulled up here. I've confirmed that they're all here. And so we're just going to go here to these little 3 dots and click the print button. And once again, a print menu comes up. Now, it's going to show you an image on here that isn't really accurate. And of course, it's still registering all of those images. Sorry for the delay. I feel like I should play Jeopardy while it chugs here. The screen capture slows it down as well. So you can see here that this is not exactly, something about this preview does not look right. And that is correct because it's set here by default to show 4x6. So I'm going to click on more settings, and sure enough, paper and quality say paper size 4x6 and the paper type is matte photo paper. So we're going to put in how we want to print this. And since I'm in the US, it's probably going to be letter size. If you are elsewhere in the world, it will probably be A4. So I'm going to click whichever one applies to me, and then I'm also going to tell it glossy photo paper here. You can change the output quality. When I'm printing these, I just do automatic. And of course, I only want it to print on one side, and I want it to print at a portrait orientation, and I can click OK, and then that print preview should show you more accurately what it's going to do. So let me show you what it does on 8.5 by 11. Right? And that's our page. I don't have to worry about the borders. I don't have to worry about whether it's going to print to the proper scale. The PDF gives you the advantage of knowing that that is going to be pretty true to 4x6. Here's what it will look like on A4. And we know what it should look like. It should look a little bit narrower and a little bit taller. So let that process again. And that's correct. So we can see that the margins are just a little bit narrower and it's just a little bit longer. So that is the best way to print these collections, is just by using your web browser. Now, there's one more thing that I want to show you, and that is some tricks for printing the pattern papers. And so there are always a select few of the pattern papers are always included with or are available for free download. and some of them are also available for purchase and available in the full bundle. So I'm going to just pull up this one real quick here, and I'm going to show you some printing tricks here. So this gives you some options. One of my favorite things to do is to just print this at 4x6. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. I want glossy photo paper and 4x6 canvas in landscape orientation, preview, and I've got the extension set correctly. And I typically do this if I am just going to slide it into a pocket, if I want to augment the journaling cards and I want to print out one of the pattern papers to use as a journaling card. There are several ways that you can do that now. This would be true to scale. So this would be a 4x6 card of that pattern paper as if you had cut the actual pattern paper out. So that pattern will be that scale. What you can also do, I'm going to leave it like that and go down here. If you want it at a smaller scale, you can do that. You can put in, let's say you want it to be 6 inches, and that will make the scale smaller. If you want it to be like 8x8 paper, you can enter 8 there, and it will be the scale of, like, what is that? 75%, oh, it's right there, 67% scale. Like if you want to print it at 75%, that makes it 9x9. That's what that scale looks like. If you want to do 25% so that it's smaller, it's going to be smaller than your 4x6, but that's what that would look like. So use your preview here, your print preview, to tell you. If I'm going to use a pattern paper for a journaling card, I typically use the 8-inch dimension here, somewhere around 60 to 70% of this original scale. It gives you more of the pattern on the page, but it's not too small. Of course, you can also do this with your A4 size. So let's go in here and change this to A4. And so this is handy if you are doing 12x12 layouts and you want to use your patterned papers on your 12x12 layouts. But if you don't have a wide format printer, so if you're printing at 100%, then that's what that's going to look like. And I do have this turned on a landscape. You could print it at a vertical orientation as well, depending on which way you wanted that pattern to go to maximize using it. However you're going to use it on your layout might dictate whether you print it vertically or horizontally. So pay attention to that as well, right? So at 100%, this would be as if you cut out a A4 size from an actual 12x12 printed paper. This is the actual scale of that pattern and what that looks like. If you want it to fit on your sheet, you can click the scale to fit, and that will make that fit on the A4 size, and you'll have a little bit on either side left over. That's similar to an 8x8 sheet of paper. So that's another option that you can do. The other thing that you can do is enter in the widest dimension, 11.694. You just enter that in, and then it will be the height of that sheet of paper. That will be the full pattern printed on that sheet of paper. That's a little bit smaller than the actual scale of the pattern, but it will fill your sheet that way. So if you want to print it that way, you can. And all of this is the same, whether it's a 4x6 sheet or an 8.5 by 11 sheet or an A4 sheet. The only difference is the actual size of the paper that you're putting into your printer. And again, testing on that journaling card can help you to know if your printer is printing it to the proper scale or if you need to tweak that extension a little bit. All right, so I'm going to print a couple of these out for you, and then I will film in real life, in person. I'll film for you and show you what those look like printed out. Okay, so as promised, I wanted to print this out for you on A4 and then share them with you in real life. And so this is the journaling card as we talked about, with the correct extension amount, using the glossy photo setting, and it looks the way that it should. And so this is a great way to know that your printer is printing at the correct sizes, true to life sizes, the way that the printables were designed to be printed. Sometimes I do this. I will tell you, the only criticism that I have of Photoshop CC is that I think sometimes when they update CC, sometimes I think they change the way the Photoshop talks to the printer. And so sometimes you can have this set perfectly, and then just randomly you'll go to print something and it'll be totally off. And I think that happens sometimes with their updates. Just to show you an example of that, this is a journaling card from Celine Studio that I did for my 2017 album a couple of days ago. And the first time I printed it, I just went, just randomly one day, went to print it, and the settings that I had left this stupid little border. And so I had to go back in and play around and figure out what had changed in there. So that's the only criticism I have of the CC. I love the Creative Cloud Photoshop, but sometimes they do change how the printer talks to Photoshop, or how Photoshop talks to the printer. So do this. If you print a journaling card and you find that it doesn't look the way you needed it to look, just go back to this trick and you'll figure it out. Again, I don't print with borders in Canon because it's a hopeless endeavor. Anytime that you try to work with the borders menu in Canon, it will push the paper forward into the printer and offset your border. So if you're wanting to do pictures with borders in Canon, add them manually in Photoshop and then print them borderless. That's my advice for you on that. And then once you know that it is printing appropriately, your PDF should print just fine. And so here is the pattern paper that I shared with you, and this is printed to fit the media, or printed to fit the page. And this is an A4 page, so it's 210 millimeters by 297 millimeters. And that, I don't know exactly what inches that works out to. Let's see here, we can figure that out really quick. 21 millimeters is about 9 3/4 inches, if I'm reading that correctly. And then 29.7 centimeters is about 6.5, give or take a little bit on that end. So, no, that's not correct either. 21 would be that dimension. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a quarter, and then 29.7 would be 8, 9, 10, 11 and 3/4. So that's the difference between the A4 and the 8x11. And then the journaling cards, this is truly what the size concern is, right? Is getting the 3x4 cards and the 4x6 cards to print so they will fit in your pockets. So once you have this set and you know that that's doing the right thing, these will print from your PDFs. And so if you're curious, what do these actually measure now that I've printed them out? It's going to measure almost 3 inches by 4 inches. And I'll tell you, these are sized at 2.97 inches wide so that they will fit in your pockets. So if you're measuring the width, don't look for that to be 3 inches wide. Some designers will do them 3 inches wide, and that's okay. You can always trim off the edges a little bit, but the height is the concern, because you really do want a 4-inch high card and 4-inch high photos, and we do indeed have a 4-inch height here. So I hope that this tutorial has been helpful to you. I know printing is like one of the biggest complaints that I hear, and one of the things I get the most questions about. How can I print the Larkin Design Kits? How can I print my digital collections and my digital elements so that they're true to size, so that they'll fit in my pockets, so that they're the way the designer intended them to be. This is how I have planned for Larkin Design collections to print. It is my hope that this will uncomplicate things for you so that you literally can just open those PDFs, put the paper in your printer and let it go, and then cut it out and enjoy it. So again, if you have any questions at all or concerns, or you just find that things aren't matching up for you, shoot me an email, shoot me a private message. I would love to hear from you. And if you've been printing and using digital collections and Larkin Design collections, always, always, always tag me on it. Share. Let me see. I would love to see what you're creating. Thanks for watching, and I will see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.